that money toward the discretionary shortfall, then that means our fund balance would shrink by approximately that $2.8 million if we did not replace those dollars there, okay?
Okay, so my question is here. So on this discretionary shortfall, you talked about it being is it all for the career ladder, or is it for a myriad of things?
Well, the discretionary shortfall that it shows there is not to replace the career ladder monies. It's to replace the decrease from approximately $28,000 in the unit value down to $22,000 approximately. So there's about a $6,000 decrease in that discretionary funding. That money shifted to the career ladder, okay, which is what we're involved in right now and today with negotiations. And this $2.8 million is to replace that decrease, that $6,000 decrease back to the general fund. Otherwise, if we don't do that in that way, we would be short that amount of money in our general fund.
But that's just 6,000, you said.
Roughly $6,000 times the number of units that we have.
601.
601 units, so.
Okay,
So is that also what was the 5% that we had to hold back? Is that the same? Okay.
Is this money with us now? In the middle column?
No, we have not actually, the legislature still has not totally released those funds to districts. They are still in the throes of trying to do that over the next couple of weeks. So the answer is no, the money is not in the bank, but we anticipate that they will make that decision relatively soon where we can draw down those funds.
And no changes?
There are some things playing out there in the political world, I think, in Boise, but I don't think that it's going to impact the educational budget in a major way.
Is this JFAC decision-making or the legislature?
This is at the legislative level now, I believe, correct?
Crazy
So,
people.
if JFAC approved the proposed budgets, but then it would have to go to House and Senate, and that's where they're held up right now. And then, of course, to the government.
so Carl, if this is replacing 6,000 per unit, is that right? How many units do we have?
601.
601.
Well, that's our salary-based portion. When you take it to the bank, generally the money we get for this is about 1% less than that. So it'll be about 595 units.
Okay.
So 600 units is a nice even number to deal with. So that's what we've been
Okay.
sharing.
All right.
Okay. Moving forward, there are wireless upgrades that we still need to take care of that we did quite a bit with the initial CARES funds and some of the ESSERA funds that we received as well, but there's still some more that we need to do there. So 500,000 is allocated in that respect. Some additional Surface Pros with cases and things of that nature, almost $400,000. Middle school and high school health, and that should be textbook adoption. 225,000. Chromebook repair, as these Chromebooks have gone out, we've had to do some repairs on them, so we've allocated a portion there for that. And then online social emotional learning program for $10,000. So again, this is our best guess for during this fiscal year, how we may be able to utilize some of these funds. Going to next year, if that's all right, skipping over to fiscal year 22, you can see our state technology salary reduction. That was something that we've already been dealing with in this year alone. They have eliminated that for this year and for next year as well. Elementary summer school, the ESY, 200,000 for that approximately. Apex, which is our online learning software program, $40,000. Another wireless upgrade, just because it's difficult to do as much as we have to do with that wireless upgrade in one particular summer or school year, if you will. Floor scrubbers is really a health concern where we would like to buy some new floor scrubbers for all of our elementary schools to just keep the cleanliness to the best possible level that we can. So instead of hand mopping floors and everything, we would have floor scrubbers that would do a much better job in that relation. Chromebook repair, we've talked about that. Again, staff retention, I'm going to let Dr. Howell just talk a little bit about what that 900,000 is there.
So as you know, with our, oh, I don't have a microphone today, but I'll speak loudly. With our, thank you, sir. As you know, our enrollment this past year has been down slightly. Carl presents on that monthly. And so as we went through the year, we had about probably at its highest point over 400 students that we've lost. When we look at per unit, what that looks like, it's about potentially in what we could be receive revenues for anywhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 18 positions we could potentially lose based on that enrollment loss. And so we think, as we've already experienced since basically the first of the year, January, we've seen a number of students start to return to the district. And I think that trend will continue. We want to err on the side of caution. And so rather than reduce all those positions and then be in a quandary next year for teachers, next school year, we want to use some of that money to offset what we could be potentially losing. And so we are estimating that we'll carry about 12 or 13 positions with that money. And if nothing else, it'll reduce class sizes in a number of areas. But again, I anticipate that we'll see a number of those students return next fall.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on there is the insurance premium, and this is what we anticipate our premium increase will be overall, the employer share, this next fiscal year, $775,000. One of the changes with the ESSERA 1 money and the ESSERA 2 money is that you can now use these funds to help offset ongoing costs that the district have to maintain operations. And so this would be a cost that we would put toward those federal dollars to help offset our insurance costs for this coming year. Okay. Food service support, $211,000 there. We have done remarkably well, I think, for the most part with our food service program. They've just done everything that they've been asked to do to make things work. Where we are falling short is for a good part of this year, we only had half of our students in our schools for some of that time when we were under some of the different learning models. But in moving forward, we know that as you go to the grocery store that our groceries are costing us much more money. And so we have cost increases there. We also have not taken an increase for our food service program now for, I believe, 2 years, or I think 2 years, if I remember correctly. We did not feel that it would be, and we have always asked our food service department to be a self-sustaining operation. However, coming out of COVID and everything that we're doing, and where everyone is now under a free meal and has been for the last year, if you will, up through September of this year, we just felt that if we could use some of the federal funds to support food service operations so we did not have to pass on a meal increase to parents and the families.
This would be like for 1 year?
What's that?
This is like a 1 year stipend then? Just for 1 year?
It's kind of a 1 year estimate to see if we can get through with that dollar amount there to help, just help offset, because everyone's gonna be going, not everyone, I shouldn't say, but many will be going from a free meal now down to where they have to pay for meals. And we didn't want to pass on a price increase to remain in the black or to remain positive. So this is to help offset that, is what that is
Okay.
expected to be. Para support, $182,000 for special education and gen ed there. New Horizons, I guess that's a new, is that just one feeding?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, for 2 years, I see. For the next 2 years, we have that lumped in into fiscal year '22.
That seems really high. Is that because insurance and everything's included in that?
Yes, insurance, benefits, and salary,
And everything, and
Mhm.
salaries? Okay.
all of those things. You'll see the same thing, school psych, test consultant, 1 to 2 years, same amount. Professional development, and I'm not sure exactly what what Chuck has in mind there. Do you know what that 150,000 is?
So similar to our Pick Your Passion event that we do that we have done historically for the last number of years that I've been here, this would be in August, so prior to school starting, a 2-day event where we could bring our teachers in. We could do some training in regard to, say, remote learning or blended learning with Screencastify. We have some updates in Infinite Campus that Mr. Chatfield would like to present. And so we have a number of opportunities that we can have if they would be willing to come back for a stipend 2 days before actual start date and, participate in those different professional development opportunities.
Okay. Website management communication, our website is becoming more and more utilized as the days go on, and there are some changes that need to be made there, and then just the increase in communication. So we have 120,000 set aside for that. Some additional nursing services, and these are nursing services that typically we have not been able to hire for, that we might have to consult with to make sure that we have adequate staffing in that respect. You want to add something about Screencastify? I'm not sure I know exactly what that is.
It's just that online learning program.
Oh, okay.
essentially, that they can create videos and share across the classroom, the virtual classroom, and we want to maintain that.
Thank you. And then you see the remaining smaller amounts there for those various categories. Filters, if you're wondering what that is to increase. We've been trying to change our filters more frequently as we've been through this COVID to just make sure that we can filter out as much as we possibly can there.
What grade are those filters? I know it's not household.
They are not hospital grade filters. I know that they're, I knew what they were, but I've forgotten it at the moment. I know that there's different tiers or different types of filters. They are a high grade filter, but they are not a HEPA filter, if that's the question that you may be asking.
Just
That's a totally different ball game there, and in some respects with a HEPA filter, it would be, those screen down so tightly that in some respects that they may not even work with our current systems, because our current systems move a lot of air in our schools. And so we do use a high grade filter. We do change that more frequently than we have been, but they are not a HEPA filter. Okay. And just for the board's information, the public's information, our school system air handling system will typically change the air over, depending upon the time of the year, anywhere between 4 to 8 times per hour. So it's we change the air out a lot, and we have a lot of students in school, so that's important to make sure that that air is fresh when it comes in and that it's changed over frequently, and so we monitor that pretty closely. So these are the proposed budget for the ESERA 2 funds of the $8.5 million roughly that we're looking at over the next 3 years. All of this money has to be spent by September of '23. Okay, so a few years out.
What about these underplant facilities?
That was just some additional discussion that we have had in regard to some needs that we have in our school plant facilities fund in regard to, say, HVAC, air handlers. These are funds that we had talked about. Do we want to use any of the federal dollars for some of these expenditures here? And so they were on the list, but they were moved and remained under the school plant funding as opposed to this federal funding at this point in time. So they were part of our conversation in regard to if we don't have the needs within the general fund for some of these programs and the things that we have discussed there, that we could look to school plant for reimbursement of the school plant on some of these expenditures. Okay? Any other questions? I think that really wraps up a lot of work and a lot of discussion to try to make this happen and how we're going to spend the best way and the most effective way possible this $8.5 million. And again, keep in mind that as we go through the year, you can take it to the bank that some things will change a little bit and we'll have to tweak this. And the bottom line is we will look for ways to spend those funds, but we want to spend them the best way possible that will meet our needs.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I gotta get back to where we're at now. Thanks, Carl.
Okay, we're gonna talk about a parking lot.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I had the right order. Okay. So I can't remember how long ago it's been. It's been a number of months ago that we talked about a proposal from the city of Pocatello where they wanted to improve the property that's located on Jefferson and Alameda Road. That's that vacant lot that's been sitting vacant for quite some time. It used to be an old Sinclair gas station, I believe, if I remember right. And anyway, they have sent to us recently a memorandum of understanding that says, here's what we are planning to do as a city, and here's what we would ask the district if they would consider by way of maintenance and ongoing responsibility. So in that agreement, and the best way to really look at that is if you can just go to the chart that is on page 2 and 3 of that agreement. And I think that you've had an opportunity to review that. The city is going to put greenscape in there. They'll put trees. They'll put some landscaping in there. They'll develop the parking lot and do all those sorts of things. What they are asking us to do is to do any kind of crack sealing, which with a new parking lot, that's very minimal for 5 years, really. That really is not going to be a big thing. To sweep and to keep it clean, which we do that normally with our parking lots that we have and our playgrounds as well. To do snow removal on that lot, okay? To do any striping or painting that would need to be redone. And we typically restripe our parking lots every year, or maybe if they last a little bit longer, every other year at the maximum. And then to add parking blocks to that. The city, in a nutshell, will take care of everything else in regard to that new parking lot addition. For the most part, our staff and our patrons and our students will be the ones that will be using that parking lot. There may be some that park there and maybe walk across the street to Maverick or something, but I mean, we are going to be the primary beneficiaries of that improvement there to that property. The city wants to really just beautify that area, make it not so much of a, I don't want to say an eyesore, but just make it better than what it presently is. And we're the ones that are going to reap the benefit of that at Tendoy Elementary School. So that is their proposal. This memorandum of understanding can be, we can get out of with written notification if we felt that we wanted to do that, but it's our feeling, as we've talked as an administration, that this really is a partnership venture with the city of Pocatello. It really is a win-win for the community and for the school district, and so it's our recommendation that the board would approve this memorandum of understanding.
And did this go through our legal department, this agreement?
Just Bart and I reviewed it.
Yeah,
It's pretty straightforward.
it's really straightforward. There's nothing,
I mean, I
there's
was
nothing
looking
that
at
would
the
cause us to.
liability- The liability parts and that, and
The liability is all on the city. They are the owners of the property. And so anything that happens on that property will fall under, just as if you were over at the city of Pocatello in their offices and something happened there. So we have not taken it, to answer your question, Mrs. Gephardt, we have not felt that it was necessary to really.
That wasn't my question, that
Oh.
was hers. I
Oh, was
have
it Mrs.
another,
Cranier? Oh,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
another point I want to make,
All right.
and that is, when there's a point in here where it talks about them referring back to you if there's a question. My recommendation would be not a name, especially since
What page
You're-
is that on? Because I don't remember seeing that, I'm sorry.
it's in the, let me see if I can find it, but my point would be,
Mhm.
can it be your title? Because, I think Jonathan will have that title when you're not here.
Yeah, oh, yes, absolutely.
And so I think it's under the legal description.
Under the legal.
Oh, no, it's not there. I was looking at it earlier.
I hear what you're saying, and
I
I will.
think it's in that multi-use piece.
I will look at that, because I would agree wholeheartedly with you that it would be best to, they may have had me on there as a signer as far as entering into the agreement, but,
But this is for future, is the way
Okay,
it's in
well-
here. Make sure, though, that it's, that they can find
So
somebody.
there's under 13, under notices, that might be where you're talking about,
Could
in
be.
care of Mr. Reed,
I just-
but sent to the district.
oh,
And then
yes.
if there are
We can
any
just
others-
put yes, we'll change that to Director of Business.
That would make
Yeah,
sense.
perfect, perfect. I did not catch that, so
Nor did I. Yeah.
that's a good catch, thank you. Any other questions in regard to that document or that agreement?
Well, I was looking at the map, and they have part of it gated. Is that right? It says gate on the map, on that, you get,
Unfortunately, in my rush, I don't think that I took the copy of the actual plan, but where is it gated at? Is it gated on the north end?
You drive in on the south end and drive straight north before you hit the next bank of trees that are east-west. It says gate.
I don't know, there's some trees, and then it says gate, and I just wondered why they're putting it.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was gonna just indicate. I didn't really notice that gate before, but one of the conversations that we did have was, as you come down there, you can only turn right. And if traffic is sitting there on Jefferson waiting for the light, there may be a lot of people who want to go through that parking lot and then come out there on, is that Delmar or something? Or Dion Street? Dion Street, and then hit and go east back up on Alameda. So I'm sure that that's what that gate is there, that it can be open and closed depending upon the need for space.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, yeah, I just thought that was a little strange,
I thought it was interesting that they've already put in charging stations for electric vehicles too.
Well,
It's coming.
I guess looking to the future, I don't have one of those vehicles, but I know there are many who do now, so
And it's coming.
it is. All right. Where are we at now? Let's see.
Driver's ed,
What's that?
driver's ed.
All right, and this, okay. So we have, excuse me, we have been struggling a little bit through COVID in retention of employees, and we've been struggling with certification of driver's ed instructors for a number of years. We used to run a very strong and vibrant driver's ed program where we had probably 300 or maybe almost 400 kids go through our program, but every year that has somewhat diminished and decreased. Right now, where we are at is we do not have enough certified instructors, and they have to go through certification in order to do it under the state of Idaho. We do not have enough certified instructors to even run a summer driver's education program. We are working on trying to identify those who would like to get certified and to try to look to see if we can get something going back for our school year program and then for next summer's program, not this summer, but the following summer's program. But we just are not in a position to be able to even offer that program. That is kind of sad to say, but at the same time, they do have other opportunities through private driver's education, et cetera. And many, and I would say probably even most students today, prefer that alternative and go to private driver's education. So that's where we are. I don't know that there's much discussion about what we can do there, other than we will pursue trying to reopen that and get staffed so that we might be in a position to continue that program that we have for many years.
Mhm.
cost-wise, how does private compare with what we offered,
Private is a little bit more as far as the cost. It used to be that our driver's education program took somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks, many years ago. We had to be a little bit more competitive with the private sector there that was only going somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks for their program. So our program is now shortened down to about, I want to say it's maybe 4 to 5 weeks or somewhere around there overall. But the cost is a little bit higher, but they get through much quicker than what they would through our program. They also do not receive the state reimbursement that we receive. There's a small refund that comes back for every student that fulfills that course. I think it's I don't want to say, a little over $100, let's put it that way, of the reimbursement we get per student that successfully completes the program.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you very much.
Kevin, what do you got for us? Okay.
Forgive me if I yawn. My 3-month-old decided it was a good night to keep me up all night.
We've played that game before. We know all about that. But tha- And thanks for the green light.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And I have to say, I appreciated some of your explanations of terabytes and gigabytes, things that- and what exactly they meant.
I try to make it easy to
Length
understand.
of time for me, it was.
So this is our department overview for 2021. I just want to start with the vision, which is equity of technology for all students, visibility into technology plans and projects, and transform technology from a cost center to a partner. And I really feel like that last piece is the big vision for me, is, you know, moving technology away from just being viewed as an expense to really showing people that technology in the classroom is a big deal and it impacts students, and you know, it helps their learning. And I really feel like in the last 2 years, we've really accomplished a lot of that. So this is our personnel. You have myself as the technology coordinator, Edward Bryson as our network engineer, 3 application specialists, Alex Heinrichs, Ryan Roseborough, Jacob Mullet. Our communications engineer is Carrie Tonks, database manager Michael Lopez, and our technology training specialist Dreama and Janelle. And then security analyst is Anna Cash, and help desk is Pat Shaw. We actually just hired a new help desk to replace Zachary Anderson. He'll be starting tomorrow, so that's exciting. And then over at the Technology Service Center, we have Dory Dunn. She's the supervisor for the computer repair technicians.
She's been there a long time.
We have Caden Yearsley, Zachary Haggard, Travis Hopkins, Anthony Bosquez, and Zachary Anderson. So, you know, we have a pretty good sized team, but it's worth pointing out right here, I mean, the number of devices we service is a lot. 3,000 Windows PCs and laptops, and that number it's shrunk from where we once were at 7,000 PCs, but when you look at 13,000 Chrome devices, that's really where our bread and butter is anymore, is Chrome devices. Fixing them, repairing them. I mean, we're repairing currently about 25 devices a day on an average day, you know, whether it's just a broken key or replacing a screen. You know, that's the kind of the amount of work we're doing. And now we're seeing, we don't have any more projectors. It's 350 displays, which is what I would consider this type of display, just a non-interactive, and then about 300 interactive displays. So those are a new exciting challenge for us. And then another statistic for us is we have the same 275 managed network switches, 60 UPSs, 13 virtual or physical servers, which is down from last year where we were at 15 physical servers. We're focusing on reducing our energy footprint. So we're down probably about 35% from 2016 to now. As we move everything virtual or in the cloud, this is really reducing our total footprint on the electrical grid. One of the big things I wanted to point out is we manage over 4 million individual files on the O drive, which is the district-wide shared drive, and over 5 million individual files on all of our staff's H drives. I mean, it's just a ton of data that we're dealing with and trying to keep safe and making sure it's backed up and it's restorable. And, you know, as of this year, we're at 450 terabytes of storage versus in 2016, we had 100 terabytes of storage. So, I mean, yeah, again, here I kind of laid out the examples of the sizes. So as of now, we have a 20 gigabit fiber connection into our data center here. So that is upgrading this summer formally. So we have a 100 gigabit circuit inbound that we're going to be switching over to this summer. It's very hard to make those kinds of changes mid-year, but that circuit exists, so we'll be able to push 100 gigabit traffic out to all of our schools, which is a massive increase. We have our backup data center at 10 gigabits, and each high school actually now has, I forgot to edit this, but we're up from 2 gigabits to 5 gigabits a second at each high school, and 2 gigabits at every other building, which is really huge. And then our daily traffic is substantially increased this year. We're seeing 7 terabytes transferred daily externally to the internet, and 30 terabytes transferred internally. I mean, just the amount of data that we're moving is impressive. And then again, much of our traffic has transitioned to wireless. And so this is a recent screenshot. I took that last week. We're moving 38.96 terabytes in a week just on our wireless. That was down a little bit earlier this year. Obviously, we had less students, but now as more students are back, it just, in my mind, this really just shows the adoption of the one-to-one. People are really using it. They're out there doing things with their Chromebooks, watching videos, working on Google Classroom assignments, doing all kinds of things. And that's the exciting number to me is seeing students being engaged with the technology. This is kind of just our email spam. I mean, you can see 70% of the email that we receive is garbage. So we try to prevent people from getting that, and we don't always succeed, but 95% of the time we prevent almost all of the spam. But some of it is just going to get through. It's sadly the nature of it. So we manage all of these different applications, from rostering to providing support for our staff and students. That's another big thing that we've sort of stepped out of our comfort zone, and we're supporting students more directly as of this year, especially with COVID. We needed to help students when they had issues on their Chromebook or their tablet, even at home. So we opened up our help desk line to students, and that's been kind of a change, but I think it's been really positive. Just because it's always good to know some of the compliance standards that we follow. We follow SIPA, which is the Child Internet Protection Act, FERPA, Family Education Rights Act. We utilize best practices when it comes to dealing with our data and data governance. ADA compliance, as of this year, our website is fully ADA compliant. We met with the OCR, all the guidelines are followed. We're making sure that we're being as compliant as possible. Digital citizenship is another big thing. We're really working with the curriculum department to help students be the best digital citizens they can, which is primarily making sure that they're good humans on the internet. So the big prior year accomplishments, we deployed one-to-one for all students, developed data governance to keep our students' data safe. What that really means is we put in place a lot of regulations to our vendors in terms of what data we are willing to send them, what data we're not willing to send them, and then making sure that there were agreements in place to protect our students' data. So that was a big thing that we wanted to make sure we achieved, and we got that done this year. We improved internet traffic flow to optimize speeds. There was a lot of noise on the network, and myself and Eddie really worked through that this year and have really optimized a lot of that. We had developed account creation automation, which was a big stumbling block for technology and HR. And now all of our accounts are created automatically as a person is hired. So it's much simpler now. Another big one was deployed 600 non-interactive and interactive displays. That was a big project, but I mean, we deployed 600 displays in 3 months, which I'm pretty proud of. It was kind of an ordeal, but we got it done. As well as we deployed 250 Surface Pros to all of our staff. And that's going to increase, I believe, in the rest of this year. We're really excited about that. We've expanded our wireless coverage into all student parking lots and streamlined quite a bit of our online platform rostering. Our plans for next year are end-of-life device refresh. So as you know, we have 7,000 devices that are end-of-life as of September of this year. So we're refreshing those devices this summer, pulling out the bad, putting in the new. Continue to reduce power costs by virtualizing more of our infrastructure. That's a big push that we're very excited about. Increased file share redundancy. We had some hiccups with file share this year. And so we've been working to do file share redundancy, but we want to make it even more redundant. That way we're not worried about losing data and we have more backups in more places. Additional automation of certain tasks is a big piece where there's a lot of manual work with accounts and student rostering and things like that that we want to automate. Increased network visibility. One of the big things we struggle with is actually being able to see what our students are doing all the time locally. And so we can see what they're doing when they go to leave, but what are they doing on the device? And that's a big thing that we're working on getting more visibility into. Create technology trainings for teachers. This is another big one that we're hoping next year will be the year where we can get a lot more training into our teachers' hands. I know what minute are we going to train them on technology, but we're just hoping that as we move forward, we can get more training for them. And then ongoing wireless infrastructure improvements. Wireless is an ever-changing beast. you're constantly updating it. So that's another big piece that we're pushing for. Questions around that?
What's a Surface Pro?
It is, of course, no one has one in here. They're a two-in-one tablet device. They're very thin, very light. And what's great about them is that they can be carried by the staff member and you can write on them directly. So they give a staff member that same level of interaction with their computer, but they can walk around their whole classroom. And so we found a lot of teachers are really loving it. They'll walk around the classroom with a pen, and they can still interact with the display or draw on the surface, and the students can see it, but they don't have to be stagnant in one spot. And that kind of changes how teachers interact with their classroom.
I'm really glad to see that you're going to try to work in the training for teachers, because I think that's a real important part of this, and I know we have quite a few that just can't do all this, and so I think that's real critical if you can work that in.
It is definitely a big part, and so we're very excited to start. We're hoping to start doing some just basic trainings where maybe we do like webinars, and the staff can join them if they want, and we can record them so they're always available. We're just trying to make those steps.
Good.
Okay?
All of this is good, but I'm concerned about you changing our passwords. That is the problem, without telling us. We got that handled?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. Everything else is fine.
Well, that's
Passwords are
good.
my nemesis.
Yes, I know they are.
Especially now that we're making you make them 16 characters long.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, fine. Just tell me the rules, but that's fine.
It can be a lot, but you can know that they're secure.
Yes? Yeah.
A 16-character password will take, I think it's 30 years to crack. So that's kind of why we go that length.
Good, fine, thanks.
Okay, my other item is the Chromebook handbook. I don't know, we didn't pull that up, did we?
Yeah, it's here.
That's totally fine. You guys have a copy of it?
Yeah.
I don't really need to go through it line by line. Basically, it is the handbook that myself, Sue Pettit, Lori Craney, Chuck Orr, we all sort of worked on that in collaboration with the subcommittee of the ITC. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Basically, we went through all the guidelines that we want students to be aware of, what we expect, what they can expect from us, the care guidelines, how to manage their devices, what the costs are going to be, because we've heard a bunch of times that that's a big concern of families and students, that they want to know if they just knew what it would cost, then it wouldn't be such a problem. So we laid out the costs in here, and we're going to update that every year. Basically, what we decided was we'll set a base price based on when we look for the parts, how much they are at that time. We'll set that price, and that will be the price throughout the entire school year. So it's not going to fluctuate, it's not going to change, but we'll update that every year. And I just thought that was the most fair way to deal with it. In our process, we sort of discovered that it's really not effective or even smart for us to offer an insurance policy. We're not an insurance agency, so we can't offer even a fake insurance policy. So we found a few options for families who want to do that. So we'll provide them with those options, but they will need to pursue them on their own. We can't provide that. And then really, it's just sort of laying out, the rest of it is laying out the costs, having them do a pledge, and then we'll have that document on file so we sort of know they've signed it and they're agreeing to it.
Have you had good response from parents in terms of helping their kids be responsible for their devices?
I would say yes. I mean, we've had a lot less damage than I anticipated. There's been, I think, more damage than some people expected, but I expected the damage to be higher. But we're seeing a lot of students, if they damage it once and they have to pay that fine, they don't do it again. They realize, oh, there's a cost associated. And I think that's really what we need to do, is set the expectation of, this is a device, we're giving it to you, you need to take care of it. You could take this back.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Kevin, will you talk too about the covers? So
Yes.
we weren't able to do that necessarily.
We had,
previous to now.
yeah, we hadn't bought covers in the past due to the nature of, we have so many different varied models. So buying one cover was not feasible. But what we've since found is we can buy one, they call it an always-on cover, and the Chromebook just mounts inside of it. rather than it being a clip-on case. So we're looking to buy some of those next school year, and we'll put those on all the devices that go home with students, just as that extra layer of protection. So we're very excited about that. That should reduce damage, as well as, storing it in your locker. There'll be, some foam in between the hard metal and the Chromebook. So if there's any questions on that, I can answer it. We're sort of hoping you can approve it, I think, at the next board meeting. That's how that works.
Yes, yes, it does.
My last item then is just sort of to update you on a project that I'm working on that eventually I will need your approval on, but I just want you to be aware that it's in the works. The State Department of Education has partnered with a company called the Information Superhighway. And what they're doing is they're reaching out to larger districts like ourselves and providing us the opportunity to work with the local ISPs. And what will happen is, if we choose to pursue it, is we'll receive an NDA, we will sign that NDA, and all the ISPs in town will sign the NDA. And basically, we will provide them with anonymized student data, so home addresses of a student, but with no name attached or anything like that. And they will send us back, basically, we can provide service to this address, we do provide service to this address, or we don't provide service to this address. So that will be helpful for us to determine what of our students have internet access and who doesn't. So we're really excited about that as being able to target if we see neighborhoods where we might need to provide assistance. There's a lot of federal money coming down for us to help students who lack internet connectivity. And right now, we just don't know who needs it. So we're waiting for the Idaho State Board of Education and the State Department of Education and another organization whose three-letter acronym evades me. They're having their legal teams look at the NDA for all districts that are asking to be involved. And then that legal team will give us their recommendation. And so once we kind of have that recommendation, I'll be bringing that to you again so that you can take a look, see if you're okay with it before we proceed. But I didn't want to bring anything to you that's just a draft and hasn't even been looked at by a lawyer. So that's kind of where we're at. But I'm very excited about this project. And so that's kind of why I wanted to share it. Any questions on that? Okay.
No,
Well,
thank you.
I think that's it for me.
That's it.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tim.
Go take a nap.
Thank you. Hello, it's always so good to get to come and speak with you. Today, we're going to talk about the construction combine. Okay, thank you. It happened this year in real life time, not virtual, and it was hugely successful. And so before we kind of go through this, even though the construction combine was essentially the same as it's been in the past, it was much smaller because of social distancing, and safety was of utmost concern. So they wanted only a total number of people, including the contractors, the people who are facilitating it, and the participants, not to maximize 100. And so we didn't get to have nearly as many students go, but it was still very successful. And just, the goals were always there. They have not changed. They're still the same, to give our high school students some experience, to see what that industry is like. And those are current unemployment rates as of last week. So, I called the Department of Labor to find that out for you.
How many kids did you have sign up for this, Ron?
20.
20?
So each school got 5 students.
Okay.
And so in the past, we've had way more than that, but
So you only allowed so many?
we only allowed so many to go so that we could stay under that 100-person cap that they wanted to do.
And that included New Horizons?
Yes, it did. Mhm. And so 2 new stations this year was excavation and home restoration. And those were both very popular. Those kids loved getting in those excavation machines and just moving some dirt around. So the format was pretty much the same, except for the fact that in the morning they did COVID safety screening, which basically meant that, they covered that where the hand washing stations were, that people needed to wear their mask, and they took their temperature, just to make sure that they were trying to, alleviate any other problems, so. And then they moved it from one side of the parking lot to the side closest to the mall, just because of the fact that there would be more space they could spread out farther and get those stations farther apart. But they really, all the little red dots are all the hand washing stations that they brought in for students and participants, so that after each session, they would go and wash their hands before they went to the next session, and all the tools were wiped down. So they really did a great job of making sure people were safe and socially distanced. And then these are just pictures of some of our students and participating in the different stations. They really, like I said, they really loved the excavation. I stood there and watched them move dirt for quite a while, and they had a fun time with that. They still received the bucket with all of the basic tools in there of a, tape measure and safety goggles and gloves and things like that. So they got to keep those, just like they've done in the past. Then on day 2, they basically used the same area, and this year they actually increased the number of sheds that were built, so they did 12, and they put them in teams with contractors, just like they had done last year, but they were smaller teams, and so that way we were able to, build and donate 2 extra sheds.
It looks, when I've gotten to visit it in the past, it's been mostly guys, but it looks like there were a number of girls who participated.
There were, and that's so nice. I would really like to say that I appreciate the college and career advisors and the high schools for helping find students, recruit. They were there the day to, help out if they could. And so I really appreciate that, because they're in the building and they can, they were able to facilitate that as far as selecting who was going to be there. And, the sheds just turned out super nice. And I really love this. As most of you know, I have a flag in front of my own home. But I love the fact that they put an American flag on every shed. And so I thought that was just a really nice touch that they added this year.
I thought so too.
And they were beautiful. The next day, when that wind was blowing so hard, I went out and took some pictures, and it was fantastic. So total number of participants this year for all schools that were involved in community organizations was 47. And we'll do the same thing we've done in the past with a follow-up survey for all the participants. And then there's a follow-up meeting with the contractors to find out, how they felt it went. And, it was a much smaller event than years past, but still really successful. So,
And it wasn't raining or,
no, it was actually the nicest weather we've ever had. No, last year, or 2 years ago, it was a blizzard, so
Yeah.
it was blue skies and very nice. So that's all I have on the construction
Well, and
combine.
the other thing that I noted somewhere in there was that, well, it's here, that the participants are encouraged to contact the contractors. Does it ever go the other way?
Well, they actually they talk to students, participants right there at the combine, and they give them their business card. But some students don't really want to make a decision right that second,
Yeah.
they need to talk with their families and see if this is going to work out. And so we do encourage them to reach back out to those contractors, because I don't know if you've had anything, that you needed repaired or tried to build anything right now, but it's super hard to find someone, because they are slammed and they need employees. So, so we do encourage our students to, reach out to them if they would like to have a job, even if it's just for the summer. So, all right, well, I'm going to let you go. I have another meeting at 1 starting, so, but
Okay.
thank you. It's always so
Thank
good
you.
to see you.
Thank you.
Let's see, Sue's up.
Hello.
Graduation plans.
Giving you an update on graduation
I
plans.
mean, we didn't get to vote?
No. So we had did a survey of students to figure out what they wanted for graduation this year. And then we met with representatives, parents, and admin from all the high schools to talk about what the plans were for the year. And what they decided and what was voted upon was they would like to go back to some type of a traditional graduation. So we contacted ISU, and that took quite a while to get their permission, but we'll be having Centuries, Pocatello's, and Highlands graduations at Holt Arena and we have to follow ISU's COVID restrictions that they have there. So each student is allotted 4 what we call premium seat tickets, and they will be randomly distributed. So when people come in to pick up tickets, they're going to be handed an envelope with 4 tickets in there, and wherever those 4 tickets are is where they're seated. ISU has identified these are the best seats for this graduation, and so they all get 4 of those. And then they can also get 2 outlier seats at Holt Arena, so they could pick up 6 tickets right away for graduation. If there are any tickets left after that, after the 21st of May, on the 24th and 25th, they can come in and pick up 2 more seats if they would like. But that way, each graduate got 4 premium seats for their family to be able to see. There's other, I mean, everybody has to wear masks, and unfortunately, there will be no live music at any of our graduations this year. We have to limit the number of people on our stage, and we're going to be processing in from at least 2 of the ramps, if not all 4 of the ramps, depending on how rehearsals go. So that's where we're at right now with those 3.
And shaking hands?
Nope. Can you not shake hands? And anybody
So flipping on them?
anybody handing something to kids or taking something from kids has to wear gloves.
We do.
If you're handing a diploma, yes. And those are ISU's restrictions, so
Thank-
it's like,
And they
okay,
really preferred this over
that's,
everything.
we had several long discussions about it, yes. So,
And you said kids got input.
kids, yep, we did surveys with kids, and that was, it kind of came out to a 3-way split, whether it was traditional or traditional somehow or the parade. So it's like, okay, this is what we're doing this year.
So
And
you'll have recorded music, I assume?
some of them are planning on having recorded music, yes. So, New Horizons will be at the Wellness Complex. Currently, we're working on doing that in the amphitheater, and that will be on the 26th. So, and they're planning on doing graduation ceremony and barbecue for their graduates. And right now, they have 149 graduates from New Horizons.
Wow.
Big time.
So,
They're gonna do their barbecue that night
mhm,
after?
and we'll just do it inside the amphitheater area. So, okay, any questions? Okay,
No, we'll show up.
Hopefully.
Yeah. You never know. Every day's a gamble. Hi, Chuck.
Good afternoon. So I'm here to speak with you about the middle school, high school health adoption. And I'm here to let you know that the committee has reviewed available health textbook programs, and they were able to reach a consensus and is recommending for adoption Essential Health Skills for Middle School 2021 and an Essential Health Skills 3rd edition, which is the high school version 2021 by the publisher Goodhart Wilcox. The cost proposal for the adoption came in at $173,400 and has been budgeted as part of the district's ESSER2 budget.
That budget was 300,000 and that.
Yes, I overestimated, and this came in much less than what I had originally estimated. So,
Mr. Orr, with that in mind, would you just review for the board the why that this came
Sure.
up a little bit early
yeah.
and what our efforts were?
The adoption definitely was needed. I mean, we were they had been using a copyright of a textbook that was, I think, 2008, somewhere in there. But, you know, as we were discussing the ESSER budget and just the social emotional impact of kids right now in the midst of the pandemic, it really became apparent that our current materials were lacking in that area. And so that's kind of what kind of pushed us, nudged us a little bit to look at this health adoption, which is off cycle a little bit with the state, but that's nothing that's, you know, not typical. We often will look at materials off cycle just by virtue of how we're able to budget for things. And both of these textbooks have a really strong social emotional component and information on mental health. So we're pleased to be able to recommend both of those to you. Obviously, this item will be on your agenda next Tuesday for action. I do want you to know that both the middle school and the high school textbook have an optional human sexuality supplement. And I provided the table of contents for you in your packet today. And the recommendation from the committee is to provide one digital desk copy of the supplement as a reference to each of our health instructors, and then 10 hard copies for each school's counseling department that can be used on a case-by-case basis with individual students. I'd like to highlight the table of contents for the supplements for both the middle school and high school, both of which emphasize abstinence as the 100% way to prevent pregnancy and disease. And following that, I'll highlight the content contained in the actual textbook at each level, just so you get a flavor for what's included in each. The middle school human sexuality supplement, as you can see from the table of contents, includes a focus on understanding sexuality, what it is, sexual feelings and behavior, unwanted sexual activity, and also making responsible sexual decisions, including pregnancy prevention and teen pregnancy and parenthood. The high school human sexuality supplement, as you can also see from the table of contents, includes a focus on aspects of sexuality, sexual feelings and behavior, and pregnancy prevention. To contrast that then with the actual textbooks, the middle school student textbook includes units on taking charge of your health and wellness, taking care of mental and emotional health, nutrition and physical activity, tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs, protecting your physical health and safety, social health and wellness, and human development and reproductive health. This last unit includes information on common sexually transmitted infections and HIV/AIDS, which has been taught at the middle school level as part of our curriculum for many years. The text explains, as I've already mentioned, that abstinence is the most effective way and the 100% method to preventing STIs, and it also has many other benefits. There is also an emphasis on the teaching of refusal skills to help learners stand up to peer pressure. The text also explains that condoms are a device that provides a barrier to pathogens that cause STIs, and that to be effective, they must be used properly. And there are no depictions of this in the textbook. The high school student textbook includes units on promoting a lifetime of health and wellness, being mentally and emotionally healthy, developing a healthy lifestyle, avoiding hazardous substances, establishing healthy relationships, protecting your health, understanding diseases and disorders, and human reproduction and development. The text also includes topics on sexually transmitted infections and HIV/AIDS, which has also been taught at the high school level as part of our curriculum for many years. The high school text also explains that abstinence is the only 100% effective method for preventing STIs. and provides skills for abstaining from sexual activity, and analyzes the effectiveness of condoms for preventing STIs, including the fact that they're not as effective as abstinence at preventing disease. And again, there are no depictions in the textbook. The high school textbook also presents and describes the various methods of contraception and effectiveness at preventing pregnancy. I do want you to know that I had 4 parents review the health textbooks along with the corresponding supplements, and I provided that feedback to you in your packet as well. I'll combine these parents have children at Century, Highland, Pocatello, Alameda, Hawthorne, and Franklin, and none of these parents had concerns about utilizing the textbook in middle school or high school, and all were comfortable with implementing the supplement at the high school level. 2 out of the 3 parents that reviewed the middle school supplement would approve of its use at the middle school level, and 1 parent did not approve. I would like to offer to you that if you wanted to preview the textbooks or the supplements, I do have copies available downstairs in the curriculum department. If you'd like to drop by and take a look at those before your meeting next week. I also wanted to let you know that House Bill 249, which would have provided for an opt-in for sex education, failed in the Senate Education Committee last week. Parents still have the option to opt their learner out of sex education if they choose. Do you have any questions for me about,
And that opt-out is not different than it ever has been,
that's the way it has always been for many years, yes.
So like you said, when you had 1 parent that didn't like it, in the middle school or something, they could opt out if that was.
Yeah, and that had to do with the human sexuality supplement, and where I suspect if I spoke to this parent, she would probably feel comfortable with it being used as a resource in the counseling center. It's not our intent to use it with the general population at this point. We felt like the information that was provided within the textbook, which they do feel comfortable with us using, provided adequate information to our learners. But we know we do have some learners that may need more in-depth information on a variety of topics and would make that available to them in the counseling office. Have any other questions?
I thought some of the comments indicated that the parents thought that not only it was okay, but it was very good.
Absolutely.
Well, and certainly if it was, our last ones were 2008, we're way behind the ball here,
Yeah,
so,
it definitely was outdated information. Yeah,
and kids' lives have changed quite a bit, so.
yeah. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Courtney. Festival of Trees update.
Good afternoon. So with me today is Education Foundation Board Chair Victoria Bird, and we just wanted to share an update with you regarding Festival of Trees.
First, important to note that the Education Foundation is a 501c3 with a volunteer board of directors consisting of community members, business leaders, and both current and retired school district employees. While the organization's mission is to support efforts that enhance teaching and learning across the Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25, the nonprofit operates as an independent and separate entity from the school district and its board of trustees. As we met to make the decision regarding Festival of Trees, it's also important to note that we have had 4 meetings beginning in April of 2020 to discuss this decision. We have done 2 surveys, including one of the Education Foundation board members, as well as one for the Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25 cabinet members. We were able to narrow to 2 options for the Education foundation board to consider taking action on. And as we made these decisions, some top of mind updates were that the Idaho State University is offering availability for the Stevens Performing Arts Center for the festival with availability dates in November. Also important consideration is that Idaho is currently in stage 3 of the governor's reopening plan, which limits gatherings to a maximum of 50 people. Now we'll take just a moment to review. After all of these discussions, we came up with 2 options that we presented to our board, our Education Foundation board. The first option was to discontinue and diversify the Festival of Trees. The financial growth of the Education Foundation is ripe with untapped potential. There are more efficient ways and less labor and resource-intensive methods to raise funds for our cause. There continue to be concerns that the Festival of Trees is unsustainable as it is currently organized. Those concerns include the return on investment is inequitable to the time, effort, and resources and investment in hosting the event. The venue space and rental fees limit the ability to grow the venue and increase our return on investment. Idaho is currently in stage 3 of the governor's reopening plan and again limits gatherings to a maximum of 50 people. The local business community is still healing. Many businesses have been impacted from the strain of responding to COVID-19. And Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25 is not positioned favorably to continue the heavy lifting involved in making festival an annual success in terms of both staffing and volunteering. The Education Foundation has the potential to have wider impact on teaching and learning by diversifying its time, energy, and talents. Therefore, the Education Foundation should discontinue hosting the Festival of Trees and instead diversify fundraising efforts through a variety of strategies.
Okay, option 2 was festival fundraising. This was the second option that the Education Foundation Board of Directors considered. The Festival of Trees is a fundraising event that is important for building lasting, meaningful connections between the Pocatello Chubbuck School District and the Pocatello and Chubbuck communities. As a community building event, the festival provides wonderful visibility for the school district and the Education Foundation. Therefore, the Education Foundation should continue to host the Festival of Trees with the following conditions. Condition 1, the event prioritizes fundraising versus fundraising. Condition 2, allocate a stipend to hire a coordinator who is responsible for festival coordination and event planning. The Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25, as well as the Education Foundation, will continue its role to cultivate major sponsorships. The coordinator will report primarily to Courtney Fisher with support from the Education Foundation Board Chair. Condition 3 was to assign a co-chair team to each festival activity or event consisting of 1, an Education Foundation Board member, 2, a community member, and 3, a School District 25 staff member. And condition 4 was that the Education Foundation would be responsible for the delivery and moving services for all pre-event prop and equipment, delivery to the Performing Arts Center, as well as the moving of the trees and then the post-event delivery back to the warehouse. That is an extensive strain on our maintenance and operations staff. And so we felt like these conditions were all imperative should we continue to host the Festival of Trees.
All of the things outlined in both the options came directly from discussions that we had as a Board of Education Foundation decisions and thoughtful process. After thoughtful and careful consideration, the School District 25 Education Foundation announced that its Board of Directors has decided to discontinue hosting the Festival of Trees as its major fundraiser. Out of voting board members, 9 were in favor of discontinuing and diversifying, 3 abstained, and 4 were absent from our board meeting.
Okay, so next steps, we have prepared a press release to go out just as soon as we finish today to notify the community that this is the decision that the Ed Foundation Board of Directors has made. I'm actually excited by this opportunity because this kind of takes the hamstrings off of the Ed Foundation, because a lot of time, investment, and resources are devoted to the festival. And we have, and Victoria will go over this a little bit more, but our board has spent a considerable amount of time and will continue to spend a considerable amount of time identifying where we go from here. And there are lots of opportunities to fundraise as well as fundraise in more time efficient and resource efficient ways.
Pausing the 2020 festival due to COVID gave our board an opportunity to really prioritize our objectives and to be very thoughtful about ways we could be creative in diversifying what we do and how we can best support the district and our learners. Two of the initiatives that we've been able to participate in this year was the first STEM Up program, which was a multiple day learning experience created in partnership with the Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25, Idaho State University's College of Technology, and other local businesses. I believe the INL was a partner.
And Lookout Credit Union.
And
as well.
Lookout Credit Union as well. This gave the opportunity for more than 5,200 learners in grades K through 5 to receive a STEM kit featuring age-appropriate and standards-driven STEM activities that help them to not only experience STEM activities within the classroom and in their schools, but also to take them into their homes to engage parents and other family members in meaningful educational activities. We've also, in 2018, received a tremendous donation of nearly $1.5 million from the Glenn Perkins Family Living Trust. This has given the Education Foundation an opportunity to provide scholarships. This year we provided 7 scholarships.
6 this year, it'll be 7
Six
next year.
this year, 7 next year, to high school seniors, 2 at each of our 3 high schools, and next year we'll have the opportunity to provide one to New Horizons as well. These are $2,000 a year scholarships that are renewable over 2 years to help our learners continue their education journey.
Absolutely. And some of the other things that we've done as an Ed Foundation, we established a finance committee, which really has opened us up to, we have grown that fund by almost $100,000 in just 8 months, just by shifting it over into a different account, upon the recommendations of the financial experts that we've invited to sit at the table for that finance committee. We are also establishing a marketing committee, and these committees are not necessarily, they're chaired by an Ed Foundation board member. However, they bring in outside experts from around the community. Finance committee, those are financial tax experts. Marketing committee, they're going to be brand communication experts and community leaders. I think Rainbow Maldonado is chairing that committee, and did she say 16? 16 members of experts throughout the community are going to get together as sort of a think tank for us to explore how we can grow the visibility and the impact of the Education Foundation and what we're doing to support teaching and learning throughout our school district. So for me, it's an exciting way to look forward and say that the Festival of Trees really has established the foundation to position the foundation for exponential growth. So I'm really excited about where we're headed as a foundation.
Yeah, we have a lot of really good attitudes on our board, and people that are willing to work and to try new things and to really impact education in a positive way.
So with that, we'll take any questions that you may have about the decision or moving forward.
Jackie, you were involved?
Well, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that I think it was a great event for the community and the school district to work together. And I think you're going to be really hard pressed to find any other event where you'll raise that much money. You know, I think that true, you can go on and do your other things, and I like the other things you've said, you know, and your ideas and where you're coming from, and but that was one that it's pretty hard to find another event, and if you can't, that generates that much money.
Right.
And that much excitement, I think, from the community and the people and the kids and the performances and all that. I do know it's a lot of work. You know, I do know it's a lot of
Right.
work, and it's taken a lot of time. And I did like the idea of trying it with hiring somebody to do it, so it wasn't all on the school district.
Right.
Because I think that's the way
Right.
it probably should have been.
And we really did take a hard look at it to say,
Yeah.
okay, what role is the school district playing? The school district does all the heavy lifting for
Yeah.
the Festival of Trees. And it's become to a point where it either had to change organizationally to make it continue to be sustainable. We have seen the number of grant submissions drop off over the last several years. We have seen the number of volunteers, not just in the sheer number of volunteers. It takes hundreds of volunteers for this event to be successful, but also the amount of hours that those volunteers were willing to. So that burden kept getting shifted more and more over to the school district to where it's just not sustainable. And so when you look at a volunteer board and we don't, the school district shares my position with the Ed Foundation, but the Ed Foundation doesn't support that at all, or Shauna's position. And so the amount of hours that we're spending as district employees on hosting this event, it really begged for these hard questions to be asked
Right.
and answered. And the Ed Foundation just decided that, we have 16 members. I'm not a voting member of the Ed Foundation as the executive director. But out of 16 board members, 9, it was a pretty handy vote to say that that structure
Yeah.
doesn't have the ability to take on the heavy lifting of that event either.
Yeah, I wish you could have had every vote, gotten every vote there, but, and I think part of the problem too became with the Festival of Trees, that we were always funding the same thing, and it became kind of stagnant, and people were always, I think we
Right.
needed to change it up there.
Right.
But I realize the Ed Foundation is separate, from the district, which is, according to the national ISBA, that's the way it should be run.
Yes.
Separate, and I've known that since Janie and I think, went to Denver to that
Yeah,
convention.
whatever year that was.
Yeah, yeah. And I listened to them talk about that, and so I think it's certainly, it's all in your hands and your ballpark to do that, and hopefully you can find some things that will help. I just would like to see something too that can generate as much excitement in the community with the school district too.
Right. And it was
You know.
certainly part of our every discussion was the impact that this would have on the community, because it is a very loved event. And the conversation that we continued to have was, although this isn't what we're going to do, we're still going to be offering other opportunities to involve the community and create new traditions and create new avenues for engagement. And one of the other really positives about that we've noticed even within the last year of in 2020 not hosting the Festival of Trees is it's given us as a board an opportunity to focus on our organization and our structure, and to really grow out some of these committees. Like we've included the finance committee, growing out the marketing committee, and we're really excited about some of the direction that marketing committee is going as far as some internal and external campaigns to really grow our brand as an organization, and really make sure that the community knows that there is a way that they can contribute to education and to do the fun things that they want to be able to do and to impact, and that we're the conduit to do that. So
And new ideas and generate new
Yeah.
ideas and things. And I'm excited about some of the things you've done, and including your financial, the financial people you've got on board and different things.
Right.
I think it's just something we're going to miss. I think the whole community will miss it, but you have to do what's sustainable and it's your foundation, so.
I will note too that we joined the National School Foundation Association 2 years ago, And Shauna Sprague, Victoria, and Lance Colbert, who's our finance chair, attended that national conference in where was it?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia
Mhm.
in 2019.
2020.
2020. Oh, right before.
Right before.
Right before COVID. And we had planned on doing that again. But this is an association nationally of school foundations that really they didn't come across anybody else, and Victoria can speak to this more than I can because she was there. These foundations don't do events. Events are very time intensive, they're very labor and resource intensive, and we're just tapping the surface of what we can do and the kind of money. And I think the Perkins Family Trust has shown us that and has positioned us really well to be able to show what we're doing with those funds and how we're impacting learners beyond even School District 25 and once they're finished with this their education here, and how we can continue to improve.
Right, and one of our
Those
objectives is to be able to create those fundraising and fundraising opportunities through planned giving, and to let people know throughout the community that there are ways that they can donate large amounts of money. And the really great thing, and we're forever grateful that we were able to host the Festival of Trees for so long, was that our board has been very good financial stewards of the money that we have been given, and we have a proven track record of using that money for good to benefit our learners, and that is what really opened up the doors to the Perkins family to want to give such a large endowment to us. And so we're hoping to be able to spread that message and to be able to grow those planned giving and large donations as well.
Right.
That
And
would be super.
We did get word, I don't think I've told you this yet, but we received word from the executor of the Perkins estate that we can add that new Horizons scholarship. So that will be the 7th scholarship next year. So we'll add that to the class of 22. Any other comments, questions?
Just sounds like exciting times are coming.
I think it's
And-
exciting. I think that as wonderful as the festival has been and is, it's also limited opportunities for growth. And I see exponential growth coming. It may take a couple of years for us to explore those opportunities, but I think it's a really exciting time to see what we can do as an ed foundation and as a partner to School District 25.
Well, come back and see us more often.
Absolutely.
Tell us what's going
will.
on.
Okay.
Get us excited.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, new vision, new ideas, and
Yep.
new learning and working together and bringing more community people on board, I think, so.
I think that the thing for me that was important is when you talk about more than fundraising, but it's friend-raising. It did. I mean, it helped people in the community be aware, but it is a huge amount.
Right, and that is our mission and our objective is to be that connection between the school district and the community, and that's still very first and foremost as we move forward.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
for your
you.
time.
I saw Amy peek around the corner.
Well, we're,
Yes, we're done. It says written comment was received.
Yes, it's in the.
It's a whole packet.
And
Oh.
it's all, it's just those.
It's the same, over and over.
It's just part of the public record, so you didn't have to go through and read it all.
Oh, from the teachers?
Read them all.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, where on the agenda, we would adjourn the work session and
Yep.
convene the executive session. We're not noticed to start that until 2:15, so I would say we recess and then come back.
Okay, we are recessed.
So we're recessed till 2:15?